We're live.
We are live. This is a live version of T Formation Conversation. We're going to record a podcast here in a few seconds. But JB, are you doing good today?
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. Got to see Sam Householder and hung out with him, and met Lewis, Bleacher Report guy,
Bleacher Report.
and had lunch with the two of those guys afterwards. That was great.
CHGO guys too, right? I saw.
Yeah, was hanging out with Nicholas and Will in the stands, and then Zach Pearson as well. So, yep. A lot of good Bears people, a lot of good Bears content coming out of that, and it was fun to actually get to meet some of those guys in person.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into some of that more here. But so if you're just joining us on the Second City Gridiron, make sure you guys do subscribe to that channel. We are trying to boost those subscriptions up. And once we do hit 1,000 subscribers, I got a few things I've been collecting, some Bears stuff. You know, we'll do something. We're going to send out a nice Bears Chicago-ish swag box once we get 1,000 subscribers to a lucky winner there. But JB, if you're ready, I'm going to kick this thing kicked off. Are you good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me get a drink of the beverage here. What's happening, Chicago Bears fans? This is T Formation Conversation. I'm your host, Lester Wiltfong, and this one feels kind of strange because I'm actually here with my Bear and Bounds co-host, JB, and he's usually, steering the ship here when it's the two of us talking, but today it's my show, and so I want to say, JB, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. My hands are off the controls, so I'm not going to do anything from here on. I am happy to be a repeat guest on T Formation Conversation.
I know. The reason we're doing it this way is because I wasn't at camp today. I'll be at camp tomorrow, and I'll be at camp on Saturday with you, but I wasn't at camp today, so I want to get your expert take on the kind of stuff you saw when you're at training camp today down in Halas Hall. But before we get into the stuff that happened on the field, between the lines, I got to ask you, how is the overall vibe down there? Because last year it was at Halas Hall, but yeah, there was excitement of Justin Fields, but we all knew it was Andy Dalton, the QB1. No matter what happened in camp, it was Dalton was going to be the guy, Fields the backup. This year, new vibe. So how was it from your perspective being in camp?
Yeah, it was great. Last year, I felt like the attendance was down because they really messed up the ticketing, right? If you remember, they had kind of the lottery system. A lot of people signed up for a bunch of days. They only got one day, and then a lot of people just didn't go. We tried on Twitter to help reallocate tickets, move some from people that couldn't use them into people that could. It just didn't happen enough to fill the stands. Today, stands were filled. Last year, you had this sinking feeling that this wasn't going to work. You just had some odd decisions by George McCaskey. You had odd decisions by Matt Nagy. Justin Fields wasn't getting reps, right? So last year just had this weird kind of like ho-hum feeling. This year, man, I mean, this is Justin Fields' team on the field, off the field. The crazy number of number one jerseys at Halas Hall today. I called it an army of one jerseys. I mean, it was insane. I was standing on the pathway, and there were 8 people, 8 young men, young, teenage kids, whatever, walking down the path. All of them had Bears jerseys on. And at some point they all kind of, I could see all 8 of them at the same time. It was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. The only difference was one of the guys had the away jersey. The other 7 had the home jerseys. It was insanity. And every time Justin Fields did anything, there was this, eyes glued on the field. Everybody's holding their breath. And then Trevor Siemian come in or Nathan Peterman come in, and they just kind of look away and they do something else. Like, it was all about Justin Fields. They have a superstar.
Can you imagine what will happen in this city if Justin Fields is good? Like,
exactly.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like, I'm pretty old. I've never seen a legitimate franchise quarterback for my favorite team in my life. It's like, can you imagine Justin Fields, if he actually lives up to the hype, if he lives up to all the potential, this town would go nuts for that guy.
Yeah. And it's not just, it's driven by the younger generation. I mean, that was pretty clear, but the sense was all shapes, sizes, ages, like everybody was just behind this young man. And so it's very exciting to see what he can do. And his presence on the field, he does look like he owns this team. He runs this team. So it was good to see.
That's what you want to see definitely out of your franchise quarterback. So let's get into the stuff on, because like I said, I want to bring you on because you were there today. You were at Halas Hall this morning. You took in the whole practice. And Twitter was abuzz because Tevin Jenkins was not practicing. Now, was there anything going on there? Did you hear anything when you're at Halas Hall? I know there's some stuff came out after the fact, but like, what was your initial reaction when you heard that no Tevin Jenkins today?
Yeah, sometimes you just don't see somebody, right? And sometimes that's hard. You're like, oh, hey, there's Schofield. Oh, hey, there's Riley Reef. That's good to see. Hey, Cody Whitehair's there. Yeah, Cody Whitehair looks pretty good, right? And so you're seeing these linemen all kind of line up, and I was like, where's Jenkins? Where is he? And
Yeah.
he just didn't show up. He wasn't there. Again, there's a lot to try to take in camp, but I didn't really find out exactly what was going on with Tevin Jenkins. So it just his absence was notable,
Yeah.
but you move on.
So it came out, I guess, at some point. I literally just got home minutes before we went live here. So I was in the train commuting. I was actually listening to our new podcast while I was on the train, Making Monsters with Taylor Dallin and Dylan Ryan. That was a nice show. So I didn't get a chance to go through too much Bears news, but I did see that apparently Tevin Jenkins woke up with something wrong. Back stiffness, that's, of course, the Twitter speculation. Who knows? I mean, this day and age, if you wake up and you have a cold or some sort of stomach ache or something, right away it's, oh my God, does he have COVID? Let's be cautious. Let's get him tested. So who knows what happened with him? But they didn't act like it was a big deal. So I'm assuming he's going to be fine. But he wasn't the only missing offensive lineman, because also during the practice at some point, brand new center Lucas Patrick exited what turned out to be a thumb injury. Did you have a chance much to see Patrick when he was in there? Or did he look okay, or was it just too quick to get a real feel for what he was like?
It was kind of out of nowhere. Nicholas Moriano actually said, "Hey, I don't think Patrick's in there anymore." And I looked, I'm like, "Oh no, that's Kramer." And there was a false start. They hey, get on the ball, get on the ball. It was like a 2-minute drill kind of thing. They got on the ball, they went to snap it, and the center didn't snap it back. And I was like, "Oh, Lucas Patrick, that's
Yeah.
on you, buddy." And then 2 minutes later, realized that Patrick wasn't in there, and it was like, "Oh, that probably wasn't him. That was probably Kramer." And so he just kind of exited out of nowhere. We didn't really pick it up right away. It was, we were following Twitter as well and saw a tweet from Brad Biggs who picked it up, and so it wasn't something it wasn't a notable injury. Certainly it wasn't like the Ryan Jetson thing down in Tampa. So
Oh, that's terrible.
yeah, exactly. So it's not like we had one of those situations, but I did find it interesting that Kramer came in and it wasn't sliding Mustafer over and getting another guard in for Mustafer. So it was Kramer that filled in with that number 2.
I was going to ask you about that because in years past, as Bears fans, we've seen the Bears do an O-line shuffle, whether it's with Whitehair going from guard to center to guard, or whatever it was, or guys kicking inside. So, like I thought it was interesting that Doug Kramer was the next man up. I mean, there is some more experienced guards in the roster. I was thinking when I first saw the news about Patrick that it was going to be Must for kicking over. So maybe this tells us that they view Doug Kramer as more of the center of the future.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I mean, it's hard to tell without the pads on. That's always
Yeah.
my caveat with anything O-line related. It's that you can't really tell. They did keep the same lineup from OTAs. It looked like the same guys that we were hearing about from the OTAs, where you had Braxton Jones with the first team and things like that. That won't last forever, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's going to be Riley Reef's position, obviously, when he rounds into shape and understanding where the play calls are at. But good to see a young guy get those opportunities. But it's really tough to tell without pads on. It's just more of noting who's in with who, like who's playing when Justin Fields is taking snaps, and when they say twos, what does that do, and changing things out. But it was pretty much what the OTAs had delivered to us in terms of information. Oh, do you mute yourself?
So my idiotic dog is nonstop barking downstairs right now. And I don't want it to come through when I'm on the pod here. So, but anyway, that brings us to some thoughts on the O line. Like you said, there's no pads.
Right.
There's nothing going on here. I mean, they're basically shells. They're in shorts. The pass pro, you get a little better feel because you're doing something, but you can't really tell what's going on here as far as there's no run blocking, there's no drive blocking, there's no combo blocking, there's no physicality. So it's hard to get a sense on the O line, but But like you said, it was basically the same group. It was Reef at left tackle a little bit, but Braxton Jones did get the start today. I saw, correct?
Yep, correct.
Now, going forward, we all think it's going to be Reef's going to be the left tackle there. Okay, and then it was Borum on the right side with Jenkins gone. It was obviously Borum. Did they work anyone else at that spot at right tackle that you saw?
I didn't pick up on that. I'm sure they did. I mean, there was a full two lines, so I'm sure that they were working somebody else. But again, a lot to take in at camp. It would be
Yes,
great if I could
definitely.
take in everything at once. I was trying to give a little bit more time to the wide receivers and the DBs, given that's another interesting piece of all this. And you can tell maybe a little bit more on those reps because those reps aren't going to change that much when the pads come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all assuming if Jenkins is fine, he'll be in the mix at right tackle. The newcomer Schofield will be in the mix at right guard. Just it's going to be fun to watch these guys. Now, the first padded practice is not till I believe next week, correct? So tomorrow and then Saturday when we're there, still it's going to be shorts and shells.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for two guys like us who would like to watch some of the
Yes.
line play, but I'm trying to force myself to enjoy the other parts of the game, the 7-on-7 piece. So that's what I focused on today. I took notes during 7-on-7. It's a weird universe, for linemen to watch 7-on-7 because it's like we're the big guys.
Yeah.
But I'm trying my best.
So with no physicality, with no hitting, we're going to see these guys get worked condition wise, and we saw that today. The Matt Eberflus hits philosophy, of course, stands for hustle, intensity, takeaways, and playing smarts. And we saw the hustle part of that stand out today because Coach Flus was on some guys for not hustling. Correct?
Very early in practice, there was a play where Eddie Jackson just didn't hustle, and he got called out, and he got called out specifically, and it was something to the effect of that's not full speed, run, and do it again. I heard that multiple times,
Nice.
so that was fun to hear. And I mean, you know I think that that's a nice change of pace. And there was a little later on where Eddie got called out for not finishing a rep, and so he had kind of an up and down day. He had a couple of standout plays and a couple splash plays, but he didn't have that 100% effort on every play, which is what they're looking for here. And so that he got called out for it and I think that's what you like to see.
Well, it's a mentality. It's a change in culture. I mean, this is the first practice for these guys too. Yeah, they had some OTAs, but you know the intensity picks up as the offseason goes on, and these coaches expect these guys now to be at that level, the intense level. Yeah, they're not hitting, but they expect that at all times right now. And it's if the coach don't see it, it's good that they're going to call him out. But a lot of people on Twitter right away say, "Oh, that's Eddie Jackson lazy." He's learning too. It's a culture change. It's they're not used to this. Balls to the wall. Go all out every single rep. Where they're tracking loafs. They're not used to this. It's going to take them some time to get used to it. But I think at some point this will be the standard, and that's the goal.
Yeah, and it does say something that Coach Eberflus is going to be willing to go after an established veteran, a guy that gets paid quite a bit, and hold him accountable to the same level that he holds everybody else, right? And so there is probably some level of strategic decision making there by the coach to say, "I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call it out by my stars. I'm going to call it out by my rookies and everybody in between."
Yeah, and then speaking of stars, I mean Justin Fields, we talked about at the top of the show. I mean, he was he's the guy that everyone wants to see. And he didn't have the best of days. I saw in your notes article you had him tracked going 5 for 10 during one of the team sessions there. So, but Fields to Mooney, that was on display a little bit today at practice.
Yeah, I think Mooney looks good. I think that he went to him enough, but not over too much, right? Like I think he's just throwing to Mooney. A lot of Mooney routes were a little shorter today, and then he had one play over the middle of the field that was like star level play. I thought it was going to be a pick. I just and then all of a sudden Mooney just comes into the frame, snatches it out of the air. I think I got a pretty good picture of it. And again, we can only take pictures legally at practice. We are not allowed
Legally.
to take
Yeah.
videos. So if you see videos, those we were expressly told to not do that.
Yeah.
But good for them. I'm going to follow the rules because that's the type of guy that I am. So I try to put a lot of pictures up there, and I think I got that one. It was a really cool play right over the middle of the field and in the middle of traffic. And Justin Fields made a few of those throws today. A lot of his stuff was pretty short. A lot of it was checked down because the first couple options were covered, which is fine, right? I mean, you don't want him thrown into traffic in practice because he'll do that in the games, but maybe not a highlight reel worth of amazing throws today. But he made some solid throws, and a lot of them were to Mooney, and Mooney was pretty sure-handed.
So one thing about the offense, I saw some tweets from you and from other guys that the Luke Getsy style, the Shanahan style offense was on display. That you guys noticed some more out of the pocket bootleg stuff.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that true out there? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You could tell that they were going to incorporate some play action. He booted him out a few times. There was one time where he booted out, the throw wasn't there, so he took off. And again, no one's going to hit Justin at all in any of this camp. But
Yeah.
it was good to see him say, "Okay, I don't see it. I'm gonna tuck it and run," even though he could just as easily try to force a pass. And so the willingness to run with that elite speed that he has was good to see too. But yeah, they're willing to incorporate the things that are going to take advantage of his athleticism and the things that he does well. That's exactly what we want.
Of course, we can't see the play action game because that hasn't been part of it. With they're not live yet, but like you said, it's all part of it. It's all the timing of it getting down. There are certain things they can do in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11, and then even with the one-on-one drills. Justin Fields was actually on Bears All Access today on the way home, and he was talking about how important those one-on-one drills are because you get a chance to see them, specifically how they work their routes, and that's good for a quarterback. And again, we're talking about Justin Fields going into camp. He knows he's the man now. He's getting all these reps. These reps are so critical for him, this whole camp wide because he needs these moving forward.
Yeah, and honestly, I would transition over to Cole Kmet if you want to talk about
Let's
one-on-ones.
hit it.
The most impressive one-on-one today was Cole Kmet beating Eddie Jackson with Justin Fields as the quarterback. Kind of a longer route. I think that probably would have been one of those where he's kind of maybe under pressure and kind of find it. Eddie kind of gave up on it, and that he got called out on that. That was one of those. And then there was a rematch, round two, and it was I believe it was Peterman or Simeon. I'm sorry, I can't remember at this point. I have it in the tweet. Might have been Peterman. And Kmet just took him deep. Just ran up the seam and beat him pretty clean. And kind of stretched out for a really nice grab. It was great. And then a little later on in team drills, Justin Fields, or no, this was the 7-on-7. Fields found him on his last pass. So he had not had a great 7-on-7. I think at that point he would have been 4 for 9, and the 4 that he had were all underneath throws. And he went deep, in the middle of the field to Kmet, and Kmet came down with it. Honestly, it was the best play of the day,
Yeah.
and so Cole Kmet just really great in this practice, and so you hope that he's going to start stacking that together, and this will forecast a really nice year for him.
I've been a little higher on Cole Kmet than most. I just like what he brings to the table on the offense. And, today there were a lot of Bears fans that are Cole Kmet fans taking victory laps. But, this is one day, still it's they're still working on things. Even Cole Kmet said at his press conference afterwards that, the offense still is a big work in progress. But you look at Cole Kmet down the seam, he's catching the ball. He's 6'5", he's 6'6". He's a big bodied guy. And a lot of fans look at him as they think he's this lumbering guy. He ran a 4.7 at the combine. I mean, it's not like the difference in a 4.7 and a 4.6 is like really small. Travis Kelce's a 4.6 guy. He plays faster. He looks faster on the field. I'm not saying Cole Kmet's that, but Cole Kmet's not just this old school lumbering Y. I mean, he has some speed, and if you use him correctly, where you can get him down the seam between zone coverage, that's a great way to use Cole Kmet.
Tight end is one of the hardest positions to make an
Yes.
impact early.
Yes.
And so if you're looking at the trajectory of a tight end, this is when Cole Kmet will make a leap if he's going to. And then there's nothing guaranteed, but this is the time that he's going to do that. And so if you want to still get some chips on Cole Kmet, now's the time to put him down because I think the price is going to start going up.
60 catches a year ago. I mean,
Yeah.
he's fine. He's fine. So, hey, I'm going to take a quick commercial break here, and then we're going to jump back in into some more stuff right after the break. And we are back. This is T Formation Conversation. I'm here with my Baron Balanced co-host. You can find him at Gridiron Born. That's JB, of course, and I'm of course at Wiltfong JR on the Twitter. And look, we talked a lot about the offense, but defense probably won the day today. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think they had the upper hand. They looked a little better throughout the practice. Obviously, there's a little bit of give and take, and I think what's funny at a training camp practice is that the crowd always seems to cheer for the offense, right?
Yeah.
They want the offense, and it's like, well, those are our guys making the play over there too. So it's kind of fun when a guy makes a good defensive play. There are still a lot of good cheers, but I think that overall you want to see the big throws and the big catches. But I would say that the defense had the upper hand today.
So at the top, we talked about Tevin Jenkins missing practice. It's kind of one of those things that no one knows yet. Also missing practice today was Thomas Graham Jr., who had been running with the ones at the nickel position. So today it was rookie Kyler Gordon getting a tons of reps at the nickel. A lot of the beat guys were really praising what he did today. A lot, you and Sam as well. A lot of the guys were just talking about how Gordon stood out, and the coaches talked about him again afterwards. And Kyler Gordon throughout the OTAs was working outside. But I guess the plan all along was to work him inside as well because they think he's the guy that can do both. Did Kyler Gordon pop for you today when at practice?
Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable, and it was good to see that they're willing to do that and put a lot on his plate and feel comfortable with putting right. I mean, this is two positions that they're asking this rookie to
Yeah.
understand and know. And if he's able to master both of those, that gives them so many opportunities to shuffle guys around in the secondary. Not just with injury things, but hey, this opponent that we have has a guy that's really great in the slot, and he's a little bigger, and so we don't really like that matchup with Thomas Graham because he's given up too many inches, and so we're gonna slide Gordon in to try to take him away. I mean, those are really nice things to have, and I think with Brisker, Dane Cruikshank was the guy on the roster today.
Yeah.
The pictured guy on
That's
the
kind of
roster.
strange.
Right, it is strange, but
First day camp, that's the guy they picked to put out there.
it was a little odd. But if you think about it, now you have a lot of guys in that secondary that maybe you feel comfortable moving those pieces around a little bit, and you're going to play more matchup football. So I was really curious to see if today will lead to a game down the road where we see him maybe line up more or even primarily in the nickel to try to take away a slot receiver down the road.
Yeah, I think he has that skill set. And our WCG colleague, Robert Zaglinski, he had a tweet earlier today that said, maybe they're grooming Kyler Gordon to be a guy that can kind of move around an offense and take the guy that's a better matchup for him. Like you mentioned with a guy like Graham, who's not quite as big, if the matchup's better with Gordon at the slot, he's shown he can do it now. Maybe this is what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I think it's a really good insight by Robert. I came to the same conclusion as well that that's really good thinking, and that we shouldn't be shocked because this is a head coach who is a good defensive thinker, and if he's the first two picks were defensive backs, and they probably have some idea of how they can to challenge modern offenses. You need modern schemes and modern players on the defense, and I think that's what Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker represent. And I think that you're seeing maybe the initial pieces being shown here that we're going to see come to fruition down the road.
You mentioned Brisker. A lot of talk about Brisker, through the offseason and the stuff he did at Penn State was that he's a guy that can play in the box.
Right.
He does more than that though. He can cover too. Yeah. I mean, he is a good all around athlete. He's a good all around safety. That the pairing with Eddie Jackson makes more sense to have Brisker kind of go up because he is a little more physical. But let's not take away his coverage skills too. So you mentioned Gordon, Brisker, Jalen Johnson at the other corner, Eddie Jackson. As much as he gets criticized, he can cover. So the secondary goes from last year was a train wreck. And now this year, you're like, man, there's some pieces there. These guys could probably be one of the better groups on the entire team.
I think with Gordon allowing you to maybe go into nickel in certain situations, with Brisker and Cruikshank allowing you to play big nickel, where you have three safeties on the field at the same time. One of the best defensive plays today was Eddie Jackson came off the edge out of nowhere, came off the edge and had a pressure on a blitz. And I was like, okay, like this just might be, the first sign that this is going to be the strength of the team. and they're going to use this in as many creative ways as possible to mess with opposing offenses. And I mean, again, it's one practice. It's the first practice that we're able to see, but I was left thinking, man, I'm really excited about this secondary.
I saw that the tweet when you mentioned with Eddie Jackson off the edge, and a lot of Bears fans right away look at this and say that's not the Tampa two. Well, this is not the Tampa two. The Tampa two, it's an evolved version of the Tampa two. So Eddie Jackson last year thrived when he was up playing in the slot as a nickel, so to speak. He thrives in that coverage area. So if you bring him up, that's where he's been comfortable. He can do that. Teams have seen him do that. Now you blitz him off the edge. And if you trust your other guys you have with Brisker, back, it opens things up for that defense.
You look around the league, and there's plenty of guys that are doing that, right?
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu, Buda Baker, right? There are Jamal Adams as a safety walking down in the box and coming
Landon
off the edge, right?
Collins, a lot of these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and so why not Bears, right? Like, why not us? Why can't we see some of this happen in navy and orange? So yeah, I'm getting pretty excited. I think having a defensive guy that is going to push the envelope and be creative, that could be a lot of fun. I'm all for it. Let's use what we have to the best advantage for the Bears.
All right. So I'm going to preface this again. This is the first
Play.
day,
Yep.
the first day when the fans are there. But in your opinion, who was the best player you saw on offense today?
Cole Kmet.
Nice.
I think he just had the best. Just stood out to me as having a great day. Separation away from Eddie Jackson, which was really impressive. And then coming down with that ball in the middle of double coverage. And just stood out. I mean, 3 great catches. And, without those, Justin Fields has a terrible day.
Yeah.
So with those, you can kind of say, yeah, Justin did okay.
You just used Cole Kmet and separation in the same sentence.
I know, from Eddie Jackson, who's not exactly a small, a slow guy, right? So he played well, all right? He had a good practice.
That clip was on Twitter. I mean, like you mentioned, you can't film it, but people film it. So it was on there, and it did look like he put a nice little move on Eddie Jackson. Part of that is because, these receivers under Nagy they weren't allowed to do certain things that I think
Right.
they could thrive at. I think with this new regime, the little nuanced double moves, I think it might make a difference this season.
Yeah, and I think it was a double move. There was a couple times where a guy did like a triple move, kind of, and it was like, okay, that's not ever going to actually happen in a game. Like once I see that, I'm like, okay, I'm ignoring that rep, and most of that was guys down the board, right? These are guys that are, 78th on the roster kind of guys. I saw that a little bit. I just kind of ignore that stuff, but that was a legitimate route that he ran.
Okay. Let's flip it over. Let's go best player on the defensive side of the ball.
This might surprise you, but Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
So he had a really nice pass breakup early. It was on the far side of the field. He had a good pass breakup, and he got up and kind of did a dance. And like guy had some moves, and I was like, all right, that's kind of fun. The defense was really into it. And then he had a pick, really nice pick, kind of laid out for it, and got up and then ran it back. And then they celebrated the end zone. And I just was like, all right, guy makes plays. That's what you have to do when you're, that guy on the roster to get some notice. And so I have to give him his props today, because he had 2 great plays, and really stood out to me.
There was someone in our Twitter mentions saying that he's a Cornhusker guy, and he said Lamar Jackson's a real deal. I mean, he hasn't had a chance to show much in the NFL. I think he was with the Jets a little bit. As a rookie, he played, I think, most of their games, but the Jets, a couple of years ago were really bad. So, last year he was a practice squad guy, but he's 6'2". He's got some size to his game. He seems like he's physical from the stuff I watched. I remember when he was coming out as a UDFA, I think it was EJ talked about him a little bit. And I mean, there's going to be an unheralded guy that comes out of nowhere that, as fans that we all like, oh, that's the next guy. But I mean, it's going to happen. We see it with teams all the time around the NFL. Guys you don't expect to be players just become players.
And that's what opportunity gives you, right? Like if you had veterans stacked all over the roster, then you wouldn't have those opportunities. You wouldn't have those reps available for younger guys to maybe take advantage of that opportunity, right? And so, you have a lot of young guys, and that's like you mentioned Taylor's show. It's going to be focused all on these first contract guys. There's a potential for a lot of those first contract guys to be a major core piece of this program going forward, and so you get to see the early stages of that, and that's what's really fun, right? Now Lamar Jackson might get cut next week. Who know?
Yeah.
Like we don't know any of this stuff, but you see something like that, guy makes a couple plays and that can build some positive momentum and maybe earn a roster spot for the guys. So again, you have to take each practice for what it is, but over the scope of what we're able to see over the next dozen practices in the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think we can start to see and who's going to step up and who's going to be part of this team long term.
Nice. So I do want to ask you now. You had a breakfast tweet this morning
Yeah.
at Robbie Gold's best bagel restaurant. Was this in Vernon Hills there, or where was it at?
Um, I don't really. I'm sorry. I'm going to expose myself for not knowing the
That's
Chicago
okay.
suburbs very well.
It's
Um,
Lake County. What was the name of it? Big
it was
Apple.
Big Apple Bagels.
I think
Uh,
that's Vernon Hills right there.
well, no, it was south. I mean, it's south of
Okay.
where I'm at. So, I mean, there might be multiple
Yeah,
locations, but
probably.
there was no one there when I got there. I was like, oh, this looks like a good bagel shop. I pulled up. There's no one there. It's like a dead parking lot, and I get in there. I'm like, all right, we'll see. Ordered lox, which is what I always order at a bagel shop, and I look up and there's Robbie Gold. Well, not literally, but there's a
The
picture of
picture,
him,
yeah.
and then it's framed, and he has signed it. It says "Best Bagels in Town." So I haven't had a bagel in a long time, and it was good. So I would concur that it's a good bagel shop, but I don't know much more than that. I
You know,
just randomly found it.
and then I got to ask you, because you are from Iowa. So, what'd you have for lunch today? Anything
Uh,
exciting?
what I we went out to a pub in Libertyville because that's like
Yeah.
Sam's stomping grounds, and I
Was it
just
Bill's Pub by chance?
no, it was
Okay,
shoot, sorry, I
that's
can't
okay.
remember now,
That's
but
okay.
everybody liked their food. I had a pale ale, so everybody can be proud of me for not drinking a dark stout beer. It was
Nothing with chocolate in it or
no,
fruit
no,
in it.
no. It was
Okay,
just a
okay.
just a pale ale. So that was good. And then tomorrow we should go do something more Chicago-ish because I mean I can get a brew pub anywhere.
Yeah, I need to get a Italian beef or something. I mean, I live locally. I live in Kenosha, right over the border. It's not like it's hard to get, but it's I don't do it often. So I think tomorrow for lunch we're gonna have to take in something more Chicago-y.
I'm in. Okay.
All right, sounds good. And that is, I'm gonna give you the last thought. Any more thoughts before I sign this off?
No, I'm excited to take it in tomorrow with you, and we'll see who else pops out, and just keep building on this narrative. And I think is if we can get as many people on, and we'll cover the first three practices, and then we'll try to keep getting people on to help us understand what's happening at camp and help understand this first part of the Eberflus story.
It's fun. It's fun. But that is it. This is T for Minutes Conversation. Once again, you guys can follow JB at Gridiron Born. Give me a follow on Twitter at Wiltfong JR. You can follow the sites at WC Gridiron. You can also follow our YouTube channel at Second City Gridiron. So all the socials are there. Make sure you subscribe, link, follow, whatever it is. And until next time, bear down, my friends. Nice, short and sweet.
Yeah.
It's like a half
So
hour.
comments. These should be quick. I am drinking Waterloo sparkling water passion fruit. I packed a bunch of stuff like that.
I was the same way, sparkling water myself.
Yeah, I'm not very adventurous here, but I am going to go pour myself some bourbon after this.
See, you're ready.
I made a few stops at Benny's, different Benny's around to
Benny's, yeah,
try to
that's
find
that's
some
a
stuff.
Chicago landmark there.
That's my Chicago thing that I've done.
So there's a question from John Delacia. I hope I pronounced it right, but how did Justin Fields' timing look?
I mean, I think it looked fine. I think that in some of the spots where he was struggling a little bit, it's 'cause no one was open, and so you could see him kind of like, he'd have to go, to multiple reads, and it looked like he was progressing through things okay. I think it would look a lot different if he was actually dropping back in the pocket
Yeah.
as opposed to like a 7-on-7 or, no rush. Things will look a little different, but early on, it was like just everybody was just completely covered up. So that wasn't very fun.
It,
But
it,
he didn't really let it go today. I mean, there were, maybe 3 throws down the field, but those look good.
I was going to ask you about that earlier, and I wanted it just didn't happen in the flow. But in years past, we saw Matt Nagy. He kind of encouraged his quarterbacks to kind of take those ridiculous chances and just throwing in the coverage in practice. And always the excuse was, "Hey, you gotta test things out. You got to see how it looks in practice." But now you're saying Justin Fields didn't do a lot of those. He kind of was safe and smart with the ball. I mean, it's a different philosophy. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't I
It's
don't.
tough,
I
right? It's like,
I'm I mean, I would say that some of the throws that where you're like, yeah, he might have made that, might not have in a game. A lot of them were still done in a wise way. Like
yeah.
he was still putting them where only his guy could kind of go get it. He wasn't putting them in harm's way. There was nothing that was super dangerous over the middle, for instance. It looked like he was pretty smart. The one pick that he had in the 7-on-7, it wasn't a good throw, but Harry
It was real
tipped it.
high though, right? It was a little high.
It was kind of behind. It was kind of behind him. Harry tipped it up. Nikhil Harry tipped it up, and that's how it got picked. But I mean, it could. I mean, it could have been a better throw. But I would say some of the throws that looked, maybe 50-50, he was putting him in a place where his guy can go up and get it, or it's just going to be incomplete. And so you're like, okay, well, that's smart.
Richard Long wants to know about Elijah Hicks. He was the first guy on the practice field today, right? The rookie
I
from
didn't really
Cal.
see much of him. So I don't. He might have
He
been the
was
first
he
guy on the
was
practice
loud and
field.
energetic from what I gathered on
Okay,
Twitter.
I might not have been down there yet. We were
Yeah,
walking around doing stuff. We went to the if you go to camp, you can go into the Walter Payton Center, and it's
that's
mostly
cool.
for kids, but it's kind of fun to just walk around and see what it. We did a little. They had a little. They have the ladder, and they have it with timers. And so they were saying, "Hey, it's like painted on the field. It's not an actual ladder." And they were saying, "Hey, you can do the ladder drill."
Did you
And
do it?
well, so I did,
Oh
and
my god.
I was like, "Well, is it the ladder drill where the ladder drill that I know is like you go side to side and you have to
Yeah.
get them in and out, in and out, in and out." And they looked at me like, "No, like we're not doing that one. Just like straightforward 2 feet in every
Okay.
box." And so I was like, "All right." I mean, I've done that one. I like the like side to side one a little more, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I did. So I did it, and then and then Sam did it, and I'll just say that I was making fun of Sam that he moved his body from one part of the ladder to the other part of the ladder. I'm not sure that he did the agility drill, or if he did it, it wasn't with much agility. But um, I, uh, I do think that I I looked okay. I didn't get an offer, but I didn't embarrass myself through the agility drill.
Well, I mean, you run. You're a runner, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
like if I would have done it, I would have pulled something for
It
sure. Like,
and again, to be fair, my football career is not anything to write about, but the one thing I did have was pretty good feet.
yeah.
So I'm not shocked that I could actually get through it and do okay. But yeah.
Okay, and then we have one more question. We'll take then we get out of here. But Brandon Hyatt wants to know of the newly signed free agents. Did any of those guys stand out to you?
I
You
mean,
talked a little bit about Patrick, but he got
yeah,
hurt.
Patrick got hurt. I saw Morrow early. It was just because I noted that he was in. He was playing Mike. I don't think I tweeted that out, but
Pringle.
I noticed it. Pringle was like the second guy returning kicks,
That's about it.
which I
Okay.
thought was interesting. I mean, I think he had a catch. I mean, it wasn't like a standout practice. Um, who else? I mean, I saw Schofield, I saw Reef, but they
It's hard, man.
again
O line.
nothing
Yeah.
with old line stuff.
Same with
Um,
Justin Jones on D line. What are you going to do? You're
Tough for me to like tell anything
the
about D
three
line
tech
either.
against shells.
Yeah,
What are you going to do?
yeah.
So okay. So that was good. That was a nice crisp one. We're going to do this again tomorrow night. We'll both be at camp.
Yep.
And then our plan is we're going to go to camp. We're going to go have some lunch. And then we'll come back and you at the hotel, me at home. We'll do another one. We'll do a barren balance tomorrow and do the same thing again on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday might be a little later since my drive's a little farther on Saturday. But
Are you
we'll
going
figure
straight
it out.
home after camp on Saturday?
Yeah, I got to make a stop, but it'll be on Saturday, but it won't
I
be
will get
as
to it.
quick as tomorrow will be.
All right, man. And that is it. I guess we're done. What do we do? Just hit the end here. Are we all over now?
In
End broadcast.
broadcast. Yep. Thanks,
I'm not.
guys, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
I'm totally not used to driving here, so I'm gonna end the broadcast. Thanks, guys. Bear down, everyone.